Mario. Never really did it for me. Of course, growing up PlayStation definitely had something to do with that, but even trying to go back and get into them, sure they're fun, the gameplay is consistently innovative and memorable and the games look amazing, but I always get bored of the format so quickly I have to tap out within the hour. Now, I'm not here to say that any of these games are bad, not at all. In fact, I'm yet to play a bad Mario game. Okay, I think Mario 2 is pretty shit, but the point is, this series has completely failed to hold my attention. Until now. At most, growing up, the only access I had to Mario was through my cousin's Super Nintendo, and while I was too young to fully understand the relevance of what I was playing at the time, still to this day, I find them to be incredibly boring after not too long, in comparison to so many of my other favourite games. And hell, even my most hated games of all time, I can sit through easier than these. It's because of this that I've never completed a Mario game. Blasphemy, I know. The closest I got was through Super Mario World. I sat down over a weekend and progressed through, only to hit a dead end, get confused and turned it off. I didn't want to do that because I knew I'd never come back to it, but I'd already spent the previous few worlds just trying to hang in there for that very reason. But then my cousins bought a Nintendo Wii, and that thing blew my mind. Did they have any Mario games for it? Fucked if I know. All I cared about was the motion controls for Wii Sports. I never considered this system anything more than a gimmick console. Which was correct, by the way. The amount of gimmicks that came with the gimmick was just perplexing. But the thought of playing an actual game with this control scheme seemed entirely hopeless. But alas, let's take a look at Super Mario Galaxy. I was actually saving the Mario series until I was ready to go from start to finish, but after playing through this, I think it'd be best if we started here. And yes, I'm well aware that I'm a few generations late to this game, but you'll just have to bear with me on that. I wouldn't be talking about it if I didn't have a good reason. The one thing I always adored about the Mario games was the presentation. Beautiful visuals and amazing soundtracks combined together in perfect harmony. The stories, though, not the series' strong point. One of the biggest deterrents for me is that Mario is a terrible character. He's entirely one-dimensional and only exists to jump down pipes. He just doesn't have the flair and attitude a lot of other iconic characters have, but maybe that's not his fault. Maybe he's rescued the same princess so many fucking times from the same guy that he's just sick of it. This story slips into those criteria perfectly, though the introduction with the Star Festival was nice. It's actually quite cinematic with the dark visuals and booming score as Bowser comes in with the airships and steals the castle away. All while Mario is off getting taken out by a Magic Koopa. Useless bum. Starting off with a bit of free space to get the hang for the controls was a really smart move, and is essentially this game saying, have you got motion sickness yet? If you don't like what we're doing with this, then get out now, which is for the best. Personally, I'm not sold on the concept just yet. Then we meet Rosalina, who sends us on our quest to collect grand stars for powering up the observatory, which is our hub area for the game. Definitely not as iconic as Peach's castle from Mario 64, but still a really well made hub area overall. Now, of course, like every Mario game, our main objective here is to collect stars. Go into a level, do some challenge and earn the star, collecting some arbitrary number of them to unlock more levels. It's this really basic, somewhat tired formula, but I don't mind it as much here as I do in Mario 64, and part of that has to do with this game's theme. We're in space, so collecting stars and star bits, talking to Luma who are stars, actually makes sense. I'm a big fan of accurate video game logic, so one up for that. But let's talk levels. On the topic of Mario 64, one of the big reasons I've never been able to get into that game was the structure of collectibles through the levels. Look at Banjo, Spyro, even Donkey Kong 64, which I can't stand. They've all got very similar open style levels, but what Mario got wrong was kicking you out of these locations every time you complete a challenge. Maybe it's the way my video game brain has been trained, but that to me translates to, okay, time for a new level. And the constant backtracking through to collect everything gets really exhausting for me. I'm a firm believer that everything should be completable, for the most part, without leaving the stage. Well, Mario Galaxy doesn't do that. How disappointing. Each room in the observatory has several different worlds to visit, some of them primary levels and others more serving as a quick little challenge for a change of pace. I really like giving these their own time to shine without potentially hurting the integrity of the actual levels. And again, back to video game logic, being that we're jumping through space to different planets, the large variety in level themes actually makes sense. It's like the time travel gimmick, you can go literally anywhere you want. Mario drives with the nunchuck and actions are performed using the Wiimote. Of course using the buttons for basic moves, but also whipping that thing around feels so good to make Mario spin into enemies and climb up stuff. You can even grab onto certain objects, which becomes an integral aspect of a lot of areas, so mastering this is key. And while you're walking around, you can even collect star bits, which are used as currency by moving the Wiimote across the screen. It makes the more empty sections of levels still feel like you've got something to do, and it keeps you engaged as the game loads up new areas of the map. All of these locations have a big emphasis on puzzle solving to get through, which is really awesome, considering how much variety there is here. Combining ice and fire physics in the same location, using air to navigate bubbles past hazards, rooms where the floor only appears if you progress forward enough, timing-based challenges where the level forms around you, and of course, the various suits Mario wears throughout the game. Mario has always been a bit of a fashionista. You guys are familiar with this, surely. The most interesting suit in this game has to be the Bee suit, because it enhances problem solving in the jump department with hovering about the place on limited energy. Quite similar in fact to Breath of the Wild's climbing mechanic. You need to be confident you can make it or you'll get yourself killed. There is also Boo Mario in the Ghostly Galaxy, which is cool, but quite situational. Then there is the Spring. The greatest plumber in the galaxy! Stuck in a spring. Ever played those snake levels in Donkey Kong Country 2? Yeah, I think they're pretty shit as well, but this is in 3D. It's a bit lame, but still offers something different. That's what I think keeps me going through this game, is the amount of variety here. Even the mini levels offer gameplay we don't really see anywhere else, and if we have, these concepts are constantly built upon throughout the game. What this game struggles with though is camera control. Honestly, it does do quite a good job considering the upwards and downwards nature of certain areas, but a lot of the time, having the camera in a bad position can mess you up, and in general, it just makes it hard to see where you've already been. I've looped around this anti-gravitational sand waterfall several times now, and I still can't find the items I'm looking for. It can get disorienting, which may turn a lot of people off, but I'm still shocked at how well it still manages to play despite this. I've heard so much positivity for this game over the years, but I couldn't imagine what it would feel like to play, given the overly gimmicked control scheme and strange format for the levels. Well, I'm happy to report that after spending some time with it, I really like this. Like, really like this. It can be a bit funky in certain areas, but I think that's what makes it special. There isn't really anything else like this, especially for the time. It's proved me wrong that motion controls can in fact work outside of the gimmicked environment. But these environments give you the boot once you collect a single star, so it goes against what I enjoy with these games, so obviously I hate it, right? Well, actually, each star takes you on a different path through the area, offering a new level every time. Thank you! This essentially means that we get multiple levels to each level theme, and while some sections may be repeated, it feels like the more we progress, the more these worlds open up for us to explore. That's what I like to see. It's like a nice middle ground between the entirely free-flowing Spyro idea and the repetitive in and out format of Mario 64. Maybe I'm inexperienced from having never beaten any of the games in this franchise, but from what I've played in Mario 64, that kind of thing only happens on occasion, like with the Hazy Maze Cave for example. So getting an entirely new playground each time is really awesome, and 100% this is what helped me get through this. There is never a dull or repetitive moment. On occasion, Luigi sends us a letter asking to be rescued, so we need to look at the picture, identify that back to a previous level segment, and then re-enter that area to find him. I really like this as it gives you a reason to go back through the same areas again, still offering something new to do. But this is what shits me about 64. I get so bored of the locations in that game so quickly. And even though some worlds here aren't my favourite to explore, seeing the extensive variety in each for each star, let alone the variety across the entire game, it never gets old for me. Every so often, we get a boss fight against either Bowser or Bowser Jr., but a lot of the regular levels have bosses as well. Every single fight I played in this game was really awesome. They each offer some unique gameplay and combine various challenges we've previously seen together to create some truly memorable moments. One of my favourites has to be in Bonefin Galaxy. See, Croc? This is how you do an underwater boss fight. It's frantic, the creepy visuals are gorgeous, and yet even with these controls, I don't feel handicapped in the slightest swimming, and that goes for all the underwater areas. It rivals Donkey Kong Country. And for the main battles, they're okay, but I enjoy the levels leading up to them over the fights themselves. Though, that's always been the case with this series. Even though we fight Bowser multiple times throughout the game, the final battle really does stand tall amongst them. The level leading up to it includes so many different obstacles we've seen through the game, mixed into a worthy final stage. The presentation of the entire battle, the music, everything we've gone through to get here just gives the entire thing gravity, making it feel super important. It's actually kind of unusual for that to happen. So many games struggle with the endgame portion, but Galaxy just gets everything right. Destroying Bowser sends him flying into the lava below as the remnants of his planet implode into a black hole. Don't worry, video game lava is harmless after all, so I'm sure he'll be back again. It's fucking Bowser, for Christ's sake, of course he'll be back. He invented being resurrected from a fiery death. The ending here, oh my god, it's storytelling excellence and proof that creating a cinematic experience in a game doesn't need a gritty setting, realistic characters and fucking QuickTime events. What's on display here makes the entire journey worth it for me. And now I'm proud to finally say I've completed and thoroughly enjoyed a Mario game. It's been a while since I've given an 8 out of 10, which is high praise from me, so I think we're due. Super Mario Galaxy gets 9 out of 10. I could only complain that the camera works against you in certain areas, and look, maybe for some people, they might have a hard time dealing with things like depth perception and motion sickness due to the gimmick here, but for me, I loved everything about this experience, more so than I ever thought I would. Even though my ongoing disappointment for the character and extremely basic storytelling in this series will always loom over me, I can't deny the innovation displayed on all accounts. The visuals, gorgeous. The soundtrack is breathtaking, the gameplay is incredibly addicting, and the levels, oh my wow, what an experience. And of course, the sheer volume of unique, well-paced challenge that keeps you on your toes at all times, and the creativity on display here is just insane. There is so much brilliant content here, and beating the game with all 120 stars unlocks Luigi mode, where you play through the same game again, just as player 2. That's a lot of work for what is essentially just a skin with some very minute control differences. Kind of a shame, actually. So much so that I'm gonna have to drop back down to an 8 out of 10. No, I'm kidding. Even though that is a shame, I'm not gonna let that ruin this thing for me. It is a shame that I haven't been able to enjoy the same formula with the other games of this franchise, but now that I've played through this and finally get what Super Mario 64 was doing, I'm very interested to give that another go sometime. Just having a quick play session to collect the extra clips I've shown in this video was a lot more enjoyable than when I last played it, so maybe that's something for the future. It feels weird for me that this was the first Mario game I actually enjoyed, given all the others I played before it. But the more I think about it, this was the Mario game that introduced an entire generation to the character and his franchise, and made lifelong fans. So, really, maybe I'm just jealous that PlayStation never got this back in the day. No. Well anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe and share. I'm Square Eye Jack and I hope you have a great fucking day. Thanks for watching.